Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello, and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today, we are honored to welcome Mr. Ted Fischer, the co-founder and chief executive officer of Ageless Innovation. Welcome, Ted.
Yes, thanks so much. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here, and we're doing well. A little chilly start in the Northeast, but winter's coming, as they say.
Yes, it is. Well, we're in the Midwest, so I can fully relate and understand that for sure. We just recently got some new friends here in the office, and they're behind both my shoulders here, a beautiful cat and beautiful dog. And, this is what your company is all about, is this Ageless Innovation and these Joy for Pets. Tell us a little bit about Ageless Innovation. When and where was the company founded and started?
Yeah, thanks. The Joy for All brand, actually, we launched at Hasbro. So myself and my co-founders were a member of, I was brought into Hasbro in 2015 to lead a new innovation team. And our mandate was to think about ways to leverage Hasbro's assets in new markets and new channels. And so we chose sort of health and wellness as a big bucket. And then as we sort of honed in on looking at data, looking at the research and other products that Hasbro had launched, we were looking for, were there products that had an unintended end use or an unintended end user, and actually found that about 20 something years ago, a brand and product that was really designed for the category was 4 to 8-year-old girls. About 20% of the reviews were mom not buying it for their daughter, but buying it for an aging loved one. And the reviews were amazing, like tug on your heartstrings, the impact. So we sort of leaned into that insight, and a couple things we found. One, when you spoke to older adults, the thing they wanted more of is fun and joy and play in their life, unequivocally. There was no one who said, I don't want more fun or more joy in my life. And then two, we recognized this need for interactive companionship. There was this epidemic well before the pandemic of loneliness and isolation. And so we thought, with what Hasbro's so great at, this ability to engage and gamify and create meaningful connections, and this void of fun, joyful, playful products in the older adult space was just a great opportunity. So we launched the Joy for All brand late in 2015. We started, as you recognized your two pets, I got some over my shoulder too, but we in 2015, we launched the cat. 2016, we launched the dog. We've since launched the bird, which is called the Walker Squawker. And we continue to think about how do we innovate around fun, joy, and play in the older adult space. And so it's been an amazing ride. In 2018, we actually spun the Joy for All brand out. Myself and my co-founders left Hasbro, very friendly management spin out. We both recognized that we were moving further and further away from Hasbro's core. And so, but we also the great opportunity to serve older adults. And so we left, formed Ageless Innovation in 2018 and acquired the Joy for All brand. So we run the business as our own company where we can focus 100% on older adults and their families.
That's wonderful. And we got to experiment and play with the cat and the dog. And I can absolutely see the benefit, with our company. We take care of a lot of seniors and, children with disabilities, and, their parents are always saying, or their children are saying, if it's a parent, they wish their mom, their dad, their child could have something tangible that they could interact with. And maybe a live pet wouldn't be the right fit for them just because they can't maintain it. The cat, for instance, when we were playing with it yesterday, you pet it, it starts purring, and it sounds and feels just like a real cat's purr. Then it rolls over for you to rub its belly, and the dog, starts, getting excited and, wanting attention. And I just think it's so incredible how lifelike these pets are. These aren't just a stuffed animal. They're very interactive, and they respond to your movement, your touch, your voice. What are some of the other unique features about the pets that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I think so. I think what we're most proud of across all of our products is the fact that the feature set and all of the different, whether it's movements or actions or the way that you play our games, 100% told to us by older adults. So one of the things that we do in our design process is we never assume we know, although I'm getting closer to the older adult status, well, firmly within the AARP definition. And so, but if you want to know what the experts want and need, go ask them. As a matter of fact, outside my door today, we've got about a dozen or so older adults coming in to play test our new games, which we haven't announced yet. And so it's just another symbol. And the reason I bring it up is, when we were thinking about launching a companion pet, we went to older adults and said, what are the features? What are the things about that pet? So here's what we heard. Realism. So you already talked a bit about how realistic they are. 2, affordability. And so, owning a pet's expensive. And we think if people can own their own pets, that's fantastic. It's just not a reality for many older adults. And little things like the paw pads. I don't know if you touched those on the bottom of the cat's feet. Like, I can't tell you how many meetings I was in on paw pads, right? Before I got to Hasbro, I'd never been to a paw pad meeting. And so, but for older adults, it really meant something, that texture that reminded them of the cat, tapered whiskers. Like most toys, if you will, when you see like a cat or a stuffed animal, all the whiskers are the same length. Well, real cats, they're all different lengths. And so creating that realism, the vibropurr that you talked about, one of the things we heard was that when cats purr, they tactically vibrate. It's a feeling, a sensation that really resonated immensely. And to this day, the feature we probably hear the most about. And the rolling over, I think what's one of the things that we heard about cats is they never do what you want them to do when you want them to do it. So the play pattern with our cat, different than the pup, is very random. So you could be petting it on the back and you might get a meow, but you may not. And you might get a roll over, but you may not. It's really on the cat's terms, which, and that's what we're most proud of, is that when we launch something, we've gone to older adults, we've listened to them, we've iterated, we've brought it back to them, they tell us what's right and wrong, we iterate again, we bring it back until they say, I think you're onto something here. So that's been a real part of our success is and making sure that older adults are at the center of the process.
Yeah, and I think that's so crucial and important. And you're right, the paw pads on the bottom of the feet, they are so realistic. You just find yourself rubbing against them, and it does resonate so vibrantly like a real cat. It's remarkable. I want to talk about, though, COVID really brought to the forefront so many issues of loneliness and isolation, especially for our seniors and older adult population. What is the benefit of these pets? It's more than just having a quote unquote toy. This is more therapeutic. Would you mind sharing some of the details about the benefits?
Yeah. So honestly, when we launched this thing, this brand, our hope was that we'd get people engaged and have, sort of joyful interactions, and it would bring people happiness. I'm not sure we could have imagined the impact that our products have had. And so, with the need states that we've really had, like validated clinical research done is loneliness and isolation, which is also called depression in the medical terms, and then Alzheimer's and dementia and related. So, and in those areas, what we've seen through the testing is that it gives people a sense of purpose, a sense of resiliency. Loneliness goes down. Interactions and connectivity. Difficult transitions, which happens a lot in the Alzheimer's and dementia space, the interaction with caregivers, which are really, sometimes quite difficult and challenging as people get, further down the cognitive decline. What we've seen is it acts as this bridge where not only have people, that used to have to be medicated for these transitions, now they just get the cat and they go along happily, as opposed to, so without the side, effects and those type of things. So it's a little different for everyone, obviously, you said it earlier, but, sparking that feeling. We've had dozens of stories of people who are completely nonverbal for months or years, and receive one of our pets and say, "Oh, what a cute little, kitty," and like people are astounded that all of a sudden, and you don't know, it could be music, it could be a pet, it could be something, but it sparks this reminiscence or whatever that is, but it brings people out, and I mean it's. I'm not sure that I could have imagined, back 8, 9 years ago that we could have that type of impact.
That's remarkable, Ted. I want to just harken back to that 8, 9 years ago when you were launching this and developing it and doing the research for it. What's the transition or the evolution of the pets been? Like what the pet we see today, what would it have been like 7, 8 years ago? How are you? Because you guys are constantly making improvements and kind of keeping your finger on the pulse.
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, it's simple things. So when we first came out with the cat, what we heard pretty loud and clear that we didn't really think about is that people really find it important to groom their cat. So there was no brush included in the packaging, with the cat. So a year later, after the feedback, we changed that immediately, and then we had to go out and design, sort of an affordable, brush that came with the cat, but that could fit in the right hands and the way we did it, and so the team really like this is. It looks like just a plastic brush, but if I told you how many meetings with older adults that we went to make sure that this was, the right feel, the right fit, and that it was easy to do, but simple things like that. And then as we, sort of have progressed. One of my favorite stories is the Walker Squawker, which is one of our more recent products. And if I can share, but my favorite part, I'll just show you the packaging here, but the inventor is actually 95-year-old Rita Malone.
Wow.
So for 90 plus years of Rita's life, she didn't need a walker, and then she did. And she forgets it all the time because it isn't part of her thinking. As she's told me many times, Ted, when I think go to the bathroom, I think get up, go to the bathroom. I don't think get up, grab my walker, go to the bathroom. It's just not in her. But she said, and she we work with Rita's mom at Hasbro, and so Gina's her name, and she called us up one day and said, "Hey, my mom wants to pitch you on an idea." And so she came in, and Rita's not that big, not much bigger than her walker, and comes in here, commands the audience, 90-something years old, and says, "Listen, this isn't fun," pointing at her walker. She said, "But if I had maybe a little bird that sat on my walker and made it more fun and engaging and interactive," and so we have two different kinds of bluebird and the cardinal, but this is the Walker Squawker, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it, but the sounds are specific to the species. And like our other pets, it responds to touch and sound and changes in light. And then there's the universal perch, which goes on the walker. And once it goes there, it knows that it's there. And if you start moving, starts singing songs. Right. And then I'm going to put it down. You won't be able to see it. But when it doesn't sense it's moving, it gives you a reminder. Don't forget me, feeling like maybe you're walking away from the walker.
Wow.
And so when we think about, the innovation, we took something like, the use of walkers. What we know is about 80% of all the falls that happen with people who require walkers happen because they forget their walker. So if we can in some way positively impact that through this fun, joyful, playful product and celebrate a 95-year-old entrepreneur innovator like Rita, we just feel so lucky that we continue to, sort of innovate along that progress.
That's incredible. I just want to ask a side question here just to get your input, because you are in the industry of making these resources. I don't want to say toys because I think there's so much more than a toy, but they are toys in a sense. Why do you think that it took someone like you and Ageless Innovation to come up with these ingenious ideas and resources for our older population? Why did it take so long?
That's a great question. And actually it's one of the reasons we launched, the brand itself is, as we started to research, and honestly, if you'd said, "Hey, Ted, you're going to start at Hasbro in 2015, and in 2023 you're going to be sitting on a podcast talking about, older adult fun, joy, and play, and in-home care," and I don't think I could have connected those dots.
Right.
So our purpose, which is usually how I start any talk that I give, is to reimagine how we positively live and age together by unleashing the power of play. And what we've seen over time is that the power of play is actually something magical. It's way more than just sort of something nice to have. Like, we think that play is a basic human need. And I think society and culture, like, we work our whole lives to get to the point where we can play and have more fun and more joy. And then society tells us we're too old for that. right? And so all the things that you think, like work hard, maybe retire, maybe go on to your third act or whatever it might be, but be more joyful, have more fun. And then, we tell you're too old to play, and so we've been trying to dispel that rumor since we started this. And really, when we were doing our research back in 2015, we were looking around for other potentially fun, joyful products for older adults. And I mean, an unbelievable void in this space for a population that craves it. So I don't know why it took so long, to be honest with you. And we're starting to see other companies focus in this area. And our mantra is the more the merrier. Like there's not one solution for this population. We want to make sure that every older adult finds the meaningful, fun, joyful things in their lives. So we're pretty happy to be a part of it in some way.
Well, I know here in our offices, we're really excited because we do a lot of community outreach, and we go to senior centers and assisted livings and, do support groups, educational talks, but we do fun and games too. We do things like silly bingo or, silly auctions or just some music, activities. And we're taking the cat and the dog with us because, these are something that I think somebody has to hold and actually get to experience to get the true understanding. They are incredibly remarkable. And, just thinking about the Walker Squawker, these same facilities and locations that we go to, and I'm sure you know this, Ted, you go in and it's like a large parking lot of walkers.
Yeah.
How do you find your walker? How do you not lose it and somebody takes yours and that, those are just ingenious. I can't imagine you haven't received just enormous feedback on this Walker Squawker.
Yeah, it's been really fun. It's a more recent launch for us. And I think the feedback's been great. Actually, one of our great partners, the Front Porch, just did a study. They brought a bunch of them in and did, and I think just recently published it with really, really positive impact of the birds and the way that they introduced them and those type of things. So we're looking now to get more, like we have with our cat and our pup, get some more research done on the real true impact of these products. And which is, so our cats and dogs were CMS approved to be covered by Medicare and Medicaid in plan year 2020. And so we'd love to see our birds join that, that group too. And it takes, published validated research. And so we're working on that now.
So let me follow up with that. So CMS has approved the cat and the puppy. So if a viewer or listener is either wanting one for themselves or they're thinking, we're going into Christmas, I want to get one for my mom and dad, Medicare will pay for this?
Yeah, so certainly it's really plan specific, payer specific at this point. So we have a few national plans that will cover it as a supplemental benefit, so an SSBCI, and typically the need states are around those two that I mentioned earlier. And then on the Medicaid space, we're considered an assistive technology. And multiple states have our pets in their plans now as an assistive technology. So it's that we don't have a reimbursement code, kind of thing. It's a supplemental benefit at this point. But it is something. Our goal has always been, we have two distinct channels. So we have retail, where we're selling at the places you would expect, the Amazons, joyforall.com, Walmart, Target, blah, blah, blah. And then on the healthcare side, it's a number of different ways that we're reaching. And our goal is to reach the same end user. It's just a question of getting to them through the easiest means for them. So we work with state agencies on aging and area agencies on aging. We work on in-home care. We work on long-term care. We work with Veterans Administration, and payers as well. So, to us, it's really about how can we reach and have positive impact with as many older adults as possible in a way that's, the right payment method or affordability and those type of things. And so affordability is a big part of what we produce here. I mean, very few, robots, if you will, cost as little as ours. And that's very purposeful. We've worked hard to keep it a self-contained technology that's affordable to most.
Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, in your retail stores like Target and Walmart that you mentioned, where would somebody find them? What section of the store?
Yeah, it's a great question. So mostly online, to be honest with you. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So I'll give you a couple examples of on shelf as well. But The online, so I think to your point, we never talk about these as toys. We talk about them as companion pets, or and we don't, we don't shy away from the fun and joyful, playful side of it. But on a shelf, in a place. So you said it earlier, why it takes so long to people to focus, on fun, joyful products for older adults. Well, honestly, a big box retail, tell me the aisle you go down to find the fun, joyful products for older adults. Right? It doesn't exist really. And so on shelf is a little more difficult to contextualize who our audience is and what our products are doing. Online, we can show videos, we can be very specific about the interaction with older adults. So we did like a 4,000 store CVS pilot in a 4-foot section that they were focused on comfort and calming. And so our pet was one of the products in there, but there were things like weighted blankets, heating pads, crystals. Like, it was a pretty unique subset. But when you went there, you kind of get the sense of why all these things existed in one place. If you just put it, in the toy aisle in a big box retail with all the other toys, I don't think it's going to be obvious to most that this product is specifically for older adults and their families.
I agree with that. Again, I just have to say they are so uniquely made, and just their functionalities. It's truly incredible. Now, not to minimize the pets. So I have 2 daughters and a son. My one daughter, 2 Christmases ago, was dead set from Santa that she wanted a dog, and they ended up getting a dog from Santa last Christmas, a real dog. I'm kind of missing this dog behind me at some time, but the dog we bought, it would walk, and it would turn its head, wag its tail. It didn't bark. It didn't, get excited. It was pretty lousy, Yeah. So yeah, I think, if somebody saw that in a store, they're not going to appreciate the real benefits that you guys are offering them with these pets and the walker squawker. But that leads me to this next question, though. How are you continuing to elevate your product portfolio to keep up with all these ever-changing needs in the elder care, older adult community?
Yeah, great question. So as I talked about earlier, and hopefully we'll talk about it a little bit, but we've expanded into games as well, and really focused on, both peer-to-peer and intergenerational connectivity, because we think that's so critical. And then as far as the pets go, so we've been, dancing around, if you will, but really exploring. We won a National Science Foundation grant with Brown University to explore the addition of AI into the platform. And honestly, we've been in that for a number of years in that exploration, and it's still not 100% obvious to us exactly what that means, because I think part of the magic of what we've created is the simplicity. You don't need to read the instructions. You kind of take it out of the box, you turn it on, you name it what you name it, and the magic sort of starts to happen. And as you get more complex in that, and so the one thing that sort of, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question directly, but we do think there's a role for some type of, AI or connected device, because I think there's, important and meaningful data. But what we are so fiercely protective of is the relationship between our end user and our product. And anything we do cannot interfere with that, right? So that's just it's a fine line. We're working hard at figuring it out. We've got money that we were investing. We've done some research, and we're continuing to do more. And I think over the next few years, and we're seeing products coming out that have AI and technology and very expensive robots to do unique and different things. And I go back and forth, because the simplicity part of it and the cost effectiveness of what we've done, those are all really meaningful to older adults. And so, we're working on it. I'm not sure I got a great answer for you yet.
We'll take it. I want to go to the board games now. You had shared and shown us a couple, and we've mentioned it a few times. How did that come to be? And what is there more to come with the board game and this Hasbro relationship?
Yeah. So prior to we spun out, as I said, in 2018, and then we worked on a couple of games that are card-based games. I can show you, but This one's called Past and Present Pairs, and so it's a matching game that you can play multiple ways, but it's typically something old and something new that matches, and it creates these great conversations around the what that was all about. And then Lifetime Lineup, which is a chronology game that has great, beautifully illustrated cards of historical events. And there's multiple ways to play, again, depending on cognitive ability. But you put things in order in some way, whether it's 2 in a row, 3 in a row, 5 in a row. And then about 30% of the cards are blank, and you start to write yourself into the game. So your history and your timeline becomes part of the larger game. And it's another way, again, both peer-to-peer and intergenerationally. So we had been down the path of games, and then right after we launched those products, Hasbro reached out to us, who we maintain a great relationship with, and said, hey, we're seeing a large uptick in the use of our board games with older adults. But we're hearing some feedback that, they're not quite as easy to play as they used to be. They're not as inclusive as they could be. And we think there's a real opportunity to reimagine these games, and we think you're the right people to do it. Which took us about 4 seconds to say, yes, we agree. And we embarked on a relationship where now we have exclusive access to their entire games portfolio, which is hundreds and hundreds of games. And our goal is to, take those and reimagine them for older adults in a way. And so I can give you an example if you're interested in what we did. So we came out with our first 3 games just this past August. So they just launched. This is called Trivial Pursuit Generations. And so the generations theme is something you're going to see through a couple of our products. But in this game, you play as a greatest, a boomer, a Gen Z, a millennial, a Gen X, or Gen Z. And so what we found and heard about Trivial Pursuit is there's usually a subject matter expert that sort of cleans everybody's clocks. Well, ours is a little bit different. So a couple like tactily. So that's, I don't know if you can read that or not, but that's a typical Trivial Pursuit card. Right. That's ours. And so we've done things like change the font size and change the contrast so it's easier to see and easier to play. But on every card, there's a question for greatest, boomer, Gen X, millennial, and Gen Z. So on every card, there's something for everybody. So there's no, if you're decided to play as a boomer, so the question, this is movie heroes. So the question for boomer is, who played the title hero character in the 1966 Batman TV series? I happen to know that because I was a huge Batman guy.
I give.
Adam West.
Okay, yes.
And it said Burt Ward played Batman's sidekick Robin, just so it gives you a little extra thing. But we wrote over 2,000 questions to really get at the generational. So if you were a greatest generation, just to show you the difference, what caked comic book hero made its screen debut in an animated short directed by David Fleischer on September 26, 1941.
I would guess Superman.
Superman it is. And then if you were a Gen Zer, which I will never get this one right, in Robert Rodriguez, We Can Be Heroes, what was the group of heroes called? The Supers, the Heroics, or the Titans?
No idea.
But my kids would know,
Okay.
so, and it was the answers to heroics, by the way. So for every generation, there's a question on every card, and you play and you learn, and you don't have to play as your own generation. Like I do way better with the greatest generation than I do with the boomers question. So that's Trivial Pursuit. And then similarly, we took the game of life, and so we added the dimension of generations to this. So again, you play as greatest, boomer, Gen X, Gen Z, or millennial, and the things that happen to you through life are, more specific to your generation. So if you're a boomer, you get coupon cards because all the boomers clip coupons. If you're a millennial, you have side hustle cards because all the millennials have side hustles. And there's different ways that you make money, and we sort of poke fun at every generation. But as you go through the game, there's all these added parts to the, if you lose your job, for instance, and you pick up the card and the greatest generation, it might say, congratulations, you beat the streets, you got a new job, collect 200,000 from the bank. If you're a millennial, it says you took a year off to find yourself, moved into your parents' basement, pay the bank $5,000 in rent. So again, we've kind of made it fun and sort of for every generation. But
that is great.
And then with Scrabble, you mentioned bingo earlier. So we came out with Scrabble Bingo. And so what we heard about Scrabble were a couple things. One, The pieces were a little bit difficult to pick up and see, the typical, small wooden piece. And so we created a much higher contrast, but also a three-dimensional. So this sits on a table flat, and for people with limited dexterity, very difficult. This is a flanged edge. You can pick it right up, easy to do. And then we have a big board where you can play regular Scrabble. But the other two games, like this is Scrabble Bingo. And so in this game, you really, everybody, you go around and you take tiles, and then, whoever spells the first word, they get bingo. But it's all about, you put 4 tiles down. If there's 4 people playing, the oldest person always goes first, and they get to choose first and put it on, and then it goes around till someone spells. And then my favorite game, another game we invented, and so the Scrabble's a 3-in-1. This is called Scrabble Pass. And so again, to that point that Scrabble sometimes takes a little bit too long, this incorporates all the elements of double letter, triple word, 5 lines. Everybody starts with 7 tiles. Then you pass your tile holder to the person to your left, and then the game starts. You make a 2, 3, 4, or 5-letter word. Once one person puts it down, 30-second timer goes over. Everybody puts a word down. At the end of each round, you add up your score, and you could start on any. You can only use each line once, but you can choose whichever one you want. So there's a little bit of strategy there. It's 10 or 15 minutes per game, and you get all the benefits of Scrabble. And this is very competitive in my office, I must tell you. So, so we've had a blast with these, and actually in the other room, there's folks right now testing out our next 3 that we'll come out with in 2024, and we hope to, our cadence is 3 to 5 new games a year for as long as we can keep going.
How do you guys decide, if I can ask that, how do you guys decide on what games to modify or enhance?
Yeah, so I would tell you that these 3 probably started as 15 because there's so many great, Hasbro games. And then we kind of figure out, so which ones and how would we modify them? And we're fortunate enough that so we're ex-Hasbro people, and so we call ourselves has-beens. So you're a Hasbro or you're a has-been. We're all has-beens, but we're lucky to have a network of great friends that have worked, in game design at Hasbro and now freelancing and out there. And so as we're designing these games, our team ramps up to a lot more people, on contract basis. But they're brilliant, and they think about. So we talk to older adults. What's hard about this game? Why don't you like this anymore? Or why would you want to play this? Or what's wrong with the pieces? And they give us the feedback, and then we come back and we start to think about, okay, so if we're hearing that Scrabble takes a little too long and the tiles are hard to pick up, how do we address those 2 things? And so with some games, it was a lot more obvious and easy to design. And certainly with the first 3, our goal was to go with things that were definitely recognizable in terms of, the brand and the name, because I think that's attractive to people because it's what they grew up with. In the next 3, I think we'll find that, most of the games are also ones, but there may be one that people didn't play as much, but we found a great way to sort of, renew it with, more of a charade style game. I'll say that. So, but it's a really fun, the process is really fun because we get to go play these games with older adults and then get feedback. And by the way, they don't hold anything back. If something's terrible, they will tell you it's terrible, so you can count on the good feedback. But it's not terrible duty to have to go to a day center or a senior center and play games for a couple hours. It's not terrible.
And Ted, I'm kind of, envisioning what a added level of engagement and interaction there would be for the grandparents with their grandchildren, where, life might be too mature for, one of the grandkids, but you guys have kind of made it so it's age friendly where both can play and still enjoy and, have fun with it. I mean, it's genius.
Totally. Yeah, our goal was 2 things. So we think that intergenerational connectivity is a critical element to, eliminating social isolation and loneliness, right? If we don't start to embrace the multiple generations, really engaging with this issue. And so creating something that my grandmother was a huge sort of influence on me, and we had a very unique relationship. And you can't see it, but our original package for Joy for All Pets had my grandmother on the package, which is a funny story in itself. But she was in her 90s, dealing with progressive dementia, and she was my sort of single person focus group, right? So as we were designing these products, and she was still alive, she's passed since, but it was just, no matter what she did, her weapon was laughter. right? Even if she didn't really understand what you were talking about, or I always said, like, she thought everything I said was funny. She would laugh before I say anything. I'd walk in, she'd start laughing. I say, I haven't said anything yet. She just keep laughing, So it really showed you that as you think about the ways that we would engage. So we bring my kids to visit her back when she was in a memory care community. And you'd walk in, and as typically, you'd see 3 or 4 people in a wheelchair near the door, on oxygen, asleep. Okay, like for my kids, it's like you might as well be on the surface of the sun, like just so foreign and unique. And then we go to her room, and we'd pull out Jenga, and like the world was right. Like all of a sudden, it was just sort of this commonality to it that brought everybody to the same place. Didn't matter where you were living or what you were dealing with. Like you just need to pull the block out, without having the tower come down, and laughing. I saw what it did, not just for my grandmother, but I saw what it did for my kids. And so when you start to think about, this real opportunity to bring people together, and there, we get a lot of questions about digital. Is that where we're going with games? And I hope that we do go in that direction at some point, because I know we're hoping to bring people together physically, but we also know there's people who just aren't going to be able to do that. And we want to serve all. But the opportunity right now to bring people together around a physical board game where there is human interaction that's happening. We've now watched it. We've got this campaign called Reach Out and Play, partnered with AARP, which is happening game events all over the country right now. Actually, I leave tomorrow to go to 3 in New York, one near New York City, one up in Saratoga, and then I'm coming down. And just the opportunity to be there, and we've now seen hundreds of them. It is magical to watch. And we've gotten some great coverage. I think there was this rural community in upstate New York that held one of these events, and there was a young high school. They brought some high school kids in to play, and they interviewed them afterwards. It was just such a perfect high school response, and it basically was, so what did you think of today? And he goes, I didn't think I was going to have fun with these old people, but they were great. Like it was just this, if you get there and you do it, you realize like the wealth of knowledge, the care and compassion, the genuine intellect of so many that, and we're trying to create a medium that just brings both peer-to-peer and intergenerational togetherness.
Absolutely. Real quick before we move on, Ted, the board games, are those available on the website as well, or where would you like people to go?
Yeah. They just came out in August. The response has been fantastic so far. But you can buy those at joyforall.com on our website. You can go to Amazon and some other places, but joyforall.com is our website and one of the things that we did that is really interesting about the games is when we start. So as interesting as game design is, directions is a huge part, like creating the directions for the game. You wouldn't imagine the amount of work that goes into that. Right. So as I look at these things, they're like 3-fold and there's 20, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to ruin the game for people. Who wants to sit there and read 20 minutes of directions just to start playing? So we thought about that. We said, what would be easier for older adults or caregivers or loved ones? So we created how-to videos. They're 3 to 4 minutes each. It tells you how to set up the game, how to play. So you don't have to read the directions. You just click on the video. It plays for 3 or 4 minutes. You're setting up as you go and you play. And the feedback that we've gotten on this is really fantastic. And the guy who did it is just this deadpan kind of, this is what he does for a living. He makes these videos. We found him online, like on YouTube. But I think it enhances what we've tried to do, which is create this friction-free opportunity for people to get together and play.
Sure. That's wonderful. It's a great idea too. I wish a lot of my kids' toys came with a video instruction rather than a written instruction.
There's a lot of late nights putting stuff together.
So, as far as the Reach Out and Play and your partnership that you're working on this with AARP, what's been some of the feedback from the older adults?
Yeah, so the partnership with the AARP is so fantastic, and we work with their department called Fun and Fulfillment. And so the person, our counterpart on the other side, her title is Vice President of Fun and Fulfillment. I'm like, I want that title. Like, that's the best title I've ever heard. So I have title envy. Heather is her name, and she's fantastic. And they've been just they've run some programs about getting people together. They do this thing called Movies for Grown-Ups, which has been hugely successful, where they'll rent out movie theaters all over the country and invite their members to come together and watch it together as a community and meet people or bring people, whatever it might be. And they were looking for other ways to engage their membership in, real sort of connection-based interactions. And so they loved the idea. We actually had the idea for Reach Out and Play prior to the pandemic, and we're just about to launch it in March of 2020, which is not, as you know, is not a good time to reach anything called Reach Out and Play. So we put it on the shelf, and then when the games opportunity came up, we kind of reimagined it a bit to sort of, be a way to really address social isolation and loneliness. And so that's the whole idea of it was always a non-profit kind of cause event that we were getting behind as a way to address social isolation and loneliness. It still is. These events, you don't have to use our games. It's really any games, but we put together a how-to, 19 pages of everything to run one of these events, from the snacks and the, just the way that you register people, all that kind of stuff, just so it'd be fulfilling. But the feedback has been just so great. People are having fun. We hosted one in Salt Lake City at one of the conferences we were at. It was really the first one, just sort of a trial run. And we rented 3 rooms in this restaurant in Salt Lake City and invited multi-generation people that were attending the conference, older adults, grandchildren. And we scheduled it from, I think, 6:30 to 9:30. And people got there. Not everybody got there at 6:30, but people got there, and they started playing one game, and they wanted to play the other game, and Game of Life became the game that people really wanted to play. And we thought of all of them, that one takes the longest. It probably wouldn't be as popular. We're like in the back breaking open new games to set up a table, and there was an event in this venue the next morning. So at 9:30. Like the crew comes in, they start disassembling tables, and literally people like standing up, like, okay, you can take my chair, but I'm finishing this game. Like they did not want to, to end the games. And, we knew right then, watching this and the laughter in the room and the ability, as you said, for grandchildren to be playing with their grandparents. We had one mother-daughter team that were hysterical, and they were very competitive. And, so it's just, I've gotten the chance now to be at a bunch of these events. We're going to host one here with our local Meals on Wheels at a few of their congregate sites in early December. So the whole team will sort of be involved and engaged in that one. And, we envisioned it to be community centers, day centers, long-term care, kitchen tables, whatever brings people together is really what it's about.
Well, I can imagine even in these facilities, the activity directors must just love you guys these games have got to be such a great tool for them.
Yeah, so one of the great things that we have locally, we're headquartered in Rhode Island, and we've got a network of communities that we regularly visit. As a matter of fact, I think in the other room is a bus full that came from one of our partners, and it's where we do game nights quite often, just well before the Reach Out and Play event, just to kind of go and test things out with older adults. And we've brought things like Nerf blasters and other things back in the Hasbro days, and you've never seen people have more fun with Nerf blasters than you see these older adults. We had to start bringing targets so they weren't shooting at each other.
That's great. So the Reach Out and Play, is that continuing then into 2024 and beyond?
It is. Yeah, we see it as an ongoing campaign. For this year, we sort of started it right around Grandparents' Day in September, and we're running it through the end of the year, and there'll be events through then. And then we've every intention of this not being sort of a one and done. We think this is an ongoing campaign, and we just want to continue to bring awareness about the opportunity for people to get together and connect over fun and joyful games.
Now, how do people find out if their community is going to be hosting a Reach Out and Play event? Do they go to your website, to AARP?
Yeah, so there's a couple different places, but you can go to agelessinnovation.com or joyforall.com, find the Reach Out and Play, and then in that link, there's a registration page, there's a link to the how-to that's there. And so I think there's also, I think it's aarp.org/agelessplay is the place where you can go on the AARP site and find out if that has a calendar of events and where it might be in your neighborhood, if you will.
Terrific. And we'll have all of your links up on the screen here as well as in the show notes. The goal of our show is to provide resources to these families as it relates to age-related topics or concerns. And we want our audience to get connected to these resources because, as you know, it's very overwhelming when you're in a situation of having to find something for a loved one or even for yourself. And we want them to have trusted products and trusted resources like you guys. Where would you like people to follow you on social media, if there's a newsletter, or to keep in touch with you and all the new developments that you guys are providing?
Yeah, so we have like most companies now, we have a presence on social, Joy for All or Ageless Innovation, typically both on Instagram, LinkedIn. Our website, joyforall.com, has a lot of sort of information and videos. We have the white paper that summarizes the dozen or so research studies that have been done and the impact, so if you want to get into sort of what's the validated impact look like, we have a white paper that we've written that sort of summarizes all of those in the real, in different areas. So, we love staying engaged with older adults. And, one of the things we spend a lot of time on is either letters or reviews. And so we'll often start meetings with these sort of mission moments where somebody brings in, a letter that one of us got from, an older adult end user or a caregiver or a loved one of someone who, received our pets or played our games. And we start our meetings reading those because we want to stay grounded in this incredible opportunity that we've had to sort of joyfully impact lives, which is really unique. I pinch myself most mornings when I wake up and I get to come here and work. So
I want to just ask real briefly, you mentioned you guys start off by reading a review or a letter or something to help stay grounded. Has there been a letter or a review that you either heard shared or that you received personally that really has stood above all the others?
Yeah, so a couple of things that I'll give you a couple examples. So one letter that I received talked about, I mentioned it earlier, this mom who was nonverbal for 2 years, and it talked not only about how it completely brought her back into communicating, but she was so attached she would never let the pet leave her side ever. And these are battery operated, so eventually you need to do the battery replacement, and the family came up with some sort of some ways to do that. But they went on to say that she loved it so much as she deteriorated, there was nothing that she wanted more than that cat, and then she passed away, and they shared that they actually buried her with our pet. Wow. And you read something like that and you're like, you can in your wildest dreams when you're thinking about this product on the drawing board that it could have the impact on someone's life where they actually want to keep it with them for this life and the next. So, that's pretty incredible. And then on how proud I am of my team, who are just amazingly passionate folks who think about older adults every day. I keep this one near my desk, but the team, when the hurricane happened in Florida a few years ago, we work with a lot of state agencies on aging, and Secretary Michelle Branham in Florida, who's an incredible champion and innovator, and we work probably the closest with Florida and New York. Greg Olson, who's the director in New York's most innovative older adult human being I've ever met. He's passionate and does so many things, but so we donated some pets after, and it was, the team said, we got to do something. How can we, positive impact all these people who lost all this? And the letter says, we're so grateful to the generous donation you made to the AAAs with the awesome companion pets. It's a blessing to be working with you and to deliver such joy to those in need. You have such kind and caring and warm hearts. Thanks for everything you do to help us and help our seniors. Warm regards, Secretary Branham. So, I share that because our team is like it. I came in the next morning and we were like, the team is already thinking, how do we help people, in Florida, older adults and family members that have been impacted by this. And then to have, a state agency or the head of a state agency tell you that it's a blessing to be working with you. You don't hear that you don't hear that every day. So, it's meaningful. And so the fact that we get to have, meaningful impact and be passionate every day, to hopefully bring some joy and fun into the older adult lives is pretty cool.
That's incredible. Well, and I'll just say thank you for all the incredible work you guys are doing for our older adult population. It's needed, and we see it all the time in our day-to-day lives and jobs, and I think more attention needs to be focused on these older adults. Still want to have fun, they still want to enjoy life, and they still want to be engaged. So thank you from us. I want to close real quickly with a question I often like to ask our guest. And it's a little bit of a spin on, what's next for Ageless Innovation. But I like to ask, and hopefully we'll be staying in touch, Ted. You had mentioned earlier in our conversation, if you would have known, 7-8 years ago, connecting, Hasbro and toys to, older adults and things, you wouldn't have been able to imagine it. And you've seen what you've done in that short period of time. Yeah. If we talk again in 5 years, what has Ageless Innovation done or doing? Or what's next?
That's a great question. So, I get asked sort of a version of this, every once in a while, but not the way you've asked it. I love the way you've asked it. So, if we're sitting here 5 years, I would love for. So we're in, we've been fortunate enough. We started at a big public company, right? So we had some access that most entrepreneurs don't have. At retail and globally. And so we sell our products today in about 30 countries. And so I think about the need that's out there to positively impact older adult lives. And I hope that we have, expanded our footprint. I hope we've expanded our product offering because we continue to listen to older adults and their needs and what they want to do. But 5 years, the half-life, when I think about 5 years ago and some of the stuff that's happened in that time frame, I'm not sure that any of us could have sort of seen it coming with virtual reality and the metaverse. I mean, the metaverse, what are these things? And so thinking about the team we're really passionate about the innovation side of what we do. And so we've got a pretty robust product roadmap. And I hope that we're sitting here and we've still got I'm still getting letters about the impact that we're having, that we're still touching individual lives, but we're doing it at a scale and a scope that really is having meaningful impact, especially on loneliness and isolation. Because to me, that is the epidemic that I think singularly is going to negatively impact more older adult lives than anything else. The numbers are staggering. And so if in 5 years we can say, boy, we've made a huge dent in that'd be pretty good.
That's amazing. Well, Ted Fischer, thank you so much for your time today, co-founder and chief executive officer at Ageless Innovation. We look forward to continuing to follow the great work you guys are doing. Thank you again.
Thank you, and thanks for the great work you do. And I know in Michigan and other places, you're leaders in what you're doing, and we see the impact every day of folks like you that are in the trenches making it happen. So thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Ted. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. We'd also like to say thank you again to Mr. Ted Fischer from Ageless Innovations for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.